Dong-su spent the next 3 hours exploring his new ship, and every room he entered made him more amazed. The vessel was much larger inside than it looked from the outside, with corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were covered with the same glowing symbols he had seen on the bridge, and they pulsed with soft light as he walked past them. The living quarters were designed for a crew of 50 people with comfortable beds and personal storage areas. Each room had its own air recycling system and waste disposal unit, which was luxury compared to the cramped conditions on most human ships. The medical bay was equipped with machines that could heal injuries and cure diseases that would kill a person on any other vessel. Hannah followed him through the ship as a holographic projection that appeared on screens and displays wherever he went. She explained the function of each room and system with the patience of a teacher who had been waiting decades for a student. The ship had workshops where skilled workers could build almost anything they needed, and cargo holds that could carry supplies for months of travel. "This is incredible," Dong-su said as he stood in the main engineering section where the ship's power core hummed with quiet energy. "How is this possible? Your ancestors were more advanced than the current galaxy gives them credit for," Hana replied. "The humans who built me had technology that made them the equal of any alien race they could travel between stars faster than anyone else, and their ships were feared and respected throughout known space. The power core was a sphere of pure energy contained within layers of protective shielding. It provided more electricity than 100 normal ships, and it would never run out of fuel. The engines could push the vessel through hyperspace at speeds that would make alien captains jealous, and the life support systems could keep the crew alive for years without resupply." "But what happened to them?" Dong-su asked. "If humans were so advanced, why are we treated like servants now?" "The great betrayal," Hana said, and her voice became sad. "The alien races were jealous of human success and afraid of human expansion. They formed an alliance against your people and attacked without warning. The human fleets were destroyed, and the colonies were enslaved. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy, and their technology was lost or hidden." Dong-su felt anger building in his chest as he listened to this story. His people had once been great, but the aliens had torn them down and rewritten history to make humans look weak and primitive. The ships he had seen in the junkyard were proof of the war that had been fought and lost, the aliens destroyed. "Most of our records," Hannah continued, "but some ships like this one were hidden away with orders to wait for the right person to find them. I am one of the last artificial intelligences from the old human empire, and I carry the knowledge and memories of what your people once achieved." She showed him the ship's database, which contained star charts of human colonies that had been forgotten for generations, technical manuals for building advanced weapons and faster engines, records of battles where human courage had overcome impossible odds. The history that had been stolen from his people was stored in these computer files. This ship was called the Resilience, and it was built as a command vessel for the human defense fleet. It could coordinate entire battle groups and provide support for ground operations. The weapons systems were designed to punch through the strongest alien armor, and the shields could withstand attacks that would vaporize normal ships. "Why was it never found before?" Dong-su asked. "The ship has been hiding itself using advanced stealth technology," Hana explained. "Only someone with the right genetic markers and personality traits could see through the disguise. The scavengers who ignored it were not capable of recognizing what they were looking at." Dong-su sat in the captain's chair and watched the displays show him information about the ship's capabilities. The weapon systems alone were more powerful than most space stations the sensor arrays could detect ships from star systems away, and the communication equipment could send messages across the galaxy instantly. "But I do not know how to command a ship like this," he said. "I am just a cargo hauler who barely kept one old freighter running." "You will learn," Hana said with confidence. "The ship will teach you everything you need to know. The controls are designed to respond to human instincts and reflexes. Your ancestors built this vessel to be operated by people like you who had courage and determination, but not necessarily formal training." The bridge came alive around him as Hana activated training simulations that would teach him to fly the ship and use its systems. The controls felt natural under his hands, as if he had been born to sit in this chair. The ship responded to his thoughts almost before he could form them into commands. Over the next several days, Dongsu learned to pilot the Resilience through virtual battles and emergency situations. The ship protected him from his mistakes and guided him toward better decisions. Hannah was always there to answer questions and provide encouragement when the lessons became difficult. The aliens on Nexus Station began to notice that something had changed. The human who had been walking around with empty pockets and no future was now confident and purposeful. Sunya, the food stall owner, commented that he looked like a different person when he came to buy meals. "What happened to you?" she asked while serving him rice and vegetables. "You look like someone who has found something important." "I found a ship," Dongsu replied, and left it at that. Sunya nodded knowingly. Many humans dreamed of finding a ship that would take them away from the station and back to their families, but most of the ships in the junkyard were broken beyond repair, and those that could be fixed required more money than any human worker could earn. Word began to spread through the human community that Dongsu had acquired a working vessel. People approached him asking for jobs or passage to other worlds. Some offered to pay with the few credits they had saved, while others could only offer their labor in exchange for a chance to leave. The alien authorities also took notice a human with a functioning ship was unusual enough to attract attention from the station's security forces. They began asking questions about where he had gotten the vessel and whether he had the proper permits to operate it. Dongsu knew that he could not stay on Nexus Station much longer. The aliens would find an excuse to confiscate his ship or arrest him on false charges if he gave them enough time. The Resilience was too valuable and too dangerous for them to allow a human to keep it, but he also knew that he could not simply run away and hide. The ship had been waiting for him for a reason, and that reason was not to flee from the galaxy that had oppressed his people. The database contained information about human colonies that were still enslaved and space stations where human workers were treated like property. "I think it is time to leave this place," he told Hannah as he sat on the bridge looking out at the stars. "Where do you want to go?" she asked. "Wherever humans need help," he replied. The ship began preparing for departure as Dongsu filed the necessary paperwork with the station authorities. He listed his destination as the Outer Rim, where merchant ships carried goods between the smaller colonies. It was a common route for independent traders and would not attract unwanted attention. As the Resilience lifted off from the landing pad and accelerated away from Nexus Station, Dongsu felt a sense of freedom that he had never experienced before. He was no longer just a failed cargo hauler with no future. He was the captain of humanity's most advanced warship, and he carried the hopes and dreams of his people. Ship jumped into hyperspace with a surge of power that pressed him back into his chair. The stars stretched into lines of light as they traveled faster than any human vessel had moved in generations. Behind them, Nexus Station fell away into the darkness, while ahead of them lay adventure and the chance to make a difference. "You are ready," Hannah said as the ship settled into its hyperspace cruiser. "Training is complete, and the ship accepts you as its captain." "Ready for what?" Dongsu asked, "to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of when they refuse to give up." The Resilience dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, where dozens of cargo ships moved between the inner planets, carrying goods and passengers. The system was busy with traffic from many different species, but most of the ships were old and slow compared to the advanced vessel that Dongsu now commanded. He had been traveling for 2 weeks, learning to operate the ship systems and studying the database of human history that Hannah had preserved. The more he learned about what his people had once accomplished, the angrier he became about their current situation. Humans deserved better than to be treated as second-class citizens in their own galaxy. The ship docked at Kepler Station without attracting much attention from the other vessels. The Resilience had stealth systems that made it look like just another cargo hauler. To casual observers, only a detailed scan would reveal its true capabilities, and most station operators did not bother with such thorough inspections. Dongsu walked through the station's corridors, observing how aliens and humans interacted with each other. The pattern was the same everywhere. He looked. Aliens gave orders while humans took them. Alien merchants sold expensive goods while human workers loaded and unloaded cargo for minimal pay. The system was designed to keep humans poor and powerless. He found what he was looking for in a small cantina near the docking bays, where human spacers gathered to drink cheap alcohol and complain about their problems. The air was thick with smoke, and the conversation was loud and bitter. Men and women who had once dreamed of exploring the stars now talked about finding enough work to buy fuel for their next journey. In the corner booth sat a man named Minho, who had a reputation for knowing things that other people did not. He dealt in information and illegal goods, trading secrets for credits with anyone who could pay his prices. His face was scarred from years of dangerous work, and his eyes were always watching for threats. Minho noticed Dong Su immediately because strangers were rare in this part of the station and humans who looked confident were even rarer. He gestured for Dong Su to join him at his table while keeping one hand near the weapon concealed under his jacket. "You are new here," Minho said as Dong Su sat down. "What brings you to Kepler Station looking for work?" Dong Su replied carefully. "What kind of work?" Minho asked, and his voice suggested that he already knew the answer. "The kind that nobody else will do," Dong Su said. Minho smiled and relaxed slightly. "That covers a lot of territory in this part of the galaxy. Most of the jobs that humans get offered are either illegal or suicide missions. Sometimes both." He ordered drinks for both of them and began to explain the situation on the frontier worlds. Human colonies were scattered across hundreds of systems with little communication between them. The alien governments provided no protection and often ignored crimes committed against human settlements. Pirates and slavers operated freely in the outer systems, knowing that nobody would investigate attacks on human ships. The Galactic Council claimed that humans were too primitive to govern themselves and needed alien supervision, but they provided no actual help when people were kidnapped or killed. "There is a job available right now," Minho said after they had finished their drinks. "A human colony ship disappeared in the Crimson Nebula. 2 weeks ago, the families have pooled their savings to hire someone to find their missing people." "How much money?" Dong Su asked. 50,000 credits if you bring back survivors," Minho replied, "but every respectable captain has already turned them down. The nebula is controlled by Vorthan raiders who kill anyone who gets in their way." The Vorthans were one of the most violent species in the galaxy, with a culture based on conquest and slavery. They had been raiding human settlements for decades, taking prisoners to sell in alien markets. Their ships were fast and well-armed, and they showed no mercy to anyone who opposed them. "What was the name of the colony ship?" Dong Su asked the new soul. Minho said 300 passengers, mostly Korean families looking for a new life on the rim worlds. They were traveling in an old converted cargo hauler with minimal weapons and no escort. Dong Su felt his anger rising again. 300 innocent people had been abandoned by a galaxy that considered them expendable. The authorities would not waste resources investigating the disappearance of humans, and the pirates knew they could act with impunity. "I will take the job," he said. Minho stared at him in surprise. "You have a ship capable of fighting Vorthan raiders?" "I have a ship that can handle itself," Dong Su replied. The older man shook his head sadly. "You are either very brave or very stupid. The Vorthans have been operating in that nebula for years, and they know every hiding place. They will detect your approach long before you can find their base. Then I will have to be smarter than they expect." Dong Su said. Minho gave him the contact information for the families who were hiring and warned him again about the dangers of the mission. The Vorthans did not take prisoners unless they planned to sell them, and they had no respect for human life. Back on the Resilience, Dong Su told Hannah about the missing colony ship and the families who were desperate to find their loved ones. The AI immediately began analyzing all available information about Vorthan tactics and the area where the ship had disappeared. "The Crimson Nebula is a perfect hiding place for pirates," Hannah explained as star charts appeared on the main screen. "The gas clouds interfere with sensors and communications while providing cover for ships moving through the area." The nebula was 3 light-years across and filled with dangerous radiation that could damage unprotected vessels. Most ships avoided the area unless they had specific business there, which made it an ideal base of operations for criminals and outcasts. "The Vorthans have been using the nebula as a base for at least 10 years, Hannah continued. "They have established a hidden station somewhere in the deep interior where they process their captives before selling them to slave markets, but we have advantages that other ships do not," the AI pointed out. "The Resilience has sensors that can penetrate the nebula gases and weapons that can disable Vorthen ships without destroying them. We also have stealth technology that will hide our approach. Dong-su studied the tactical displays showing Vorthen ship movements and attack patterns. The raiders operated in small groups, hitting targets quickly and then disappearing back into the nebula before anyone could respond. They were skilled fighters, but they had grown overconfident from years of easy victories. The families of the missing colonists met with Dong-su at a small hotel near the station docks. They were ordinary people who had saved for years to buy passage to a new world where they could build better lives for their children. Now they faced the possibility that their relatives were dead, or worse, an elderly woman named Kyung-ya spoke for the group as tears ran down her face. "My grandson is on that ship," she said. "He is only 8 years old. And he was so excited about seeing the new colony. We know the chances are small," an older man added, "but we have to try. We cannot just abandon them." Dong-su looked at their faces and saw the same determination that had once made humans great. These people would not give up on their families, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. He thought about his own relatives who had been killed by pirates years ago and how no one had tried to save them. "I will bring them home," he promised. The Resilience left Kepler Station the next morning with a course set for the Crimson Nebula. As the ship accelerated through hyperspace, Dong-su felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. 300 lives depended on his ability to outfight and outthink the most dangerous pirates in the galaxy. "Are you ready for this?" Hannah asked. "As ready as I can be," he replied. The ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the nebula, where space was stained red by the glow of ionized gases in the distance. Dong-su could see the swirling clouds that hid the Vorthen base and the missing colonists. "Time to show them what humans can do when they fight for their families," he said. The human fleet moved through the deepest part of the Crimson Nebula, where the gas clouds were so thick that normal sensors could not penetrate more than a few kilometers. The Resilience led the way, using its advanced detection systems to navigate through the maze of asteroids and radiation storms that filled this region of space. Dong-su studied the tactical displays showing the Vorthen base ahead. The pirate station was larger than he had expected, built from the hulls of hundreds of captured ships that had been welded together into a massive fortress. Weapon turrets bristled from every surface, and fighter craft patrolled the surrounding space. The station is heavily defended, Hana reported. 24 ships of various sizes and at least 50 automated defense platforms. The Vorthens have been building this base for many years through the ship's sensors. Dong-su could see the prison modules attached to the station's outer hull. Each module contained dozens of human captives waiting to be sold to alien slave markets. The thought of innocent families trapped in those metal boxes made his anger burn hotter. "There," he said, pointing to a section of the station. "The new Seoul passengers are being held in that area, but the station's shields are too strong for a direct assault." "Then we do not attack directly," Dong-su replied. He opened a communication channel to the other human ships. "Listen carefully," he told them. "We are going to create a diversion while the Resilience infiltrates." The Stationuji face appeared on the screen along with the other human captains. "Are you sure about this plan?" she asked. "Our ships are not built for heavy combat. You do not need to destroy them," Dong-su explained. "Just make enough noise to draw their attention away from the real target, hit their outer patrols, and make them think you are the main threat." The human captains nodded grimly, understanding that they were volunteering for a suicide mission. Their ships were old and slow compared to the Vorthen vessels, but they were determined to give their lives meaning by helping to rescue the prisoners. "If we do not make it out, remember, use kindly," one of the captains said. "You will make it out," Dong-su promised, "because I am going to make sure the Vorthens are too busy to chase youth." Battle began when Yunji's ships emerged from the nebula clouds, firing everything they had at the Vorthen patrol craft. The improvised weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the alien ships, but they created spectacular explosions that lit up the red gases around the station. The Vorthens responded exactly as Dong-su had hoped. They scrambled every available fighter and sent their patrol vessels to engage what they thought was a desperate human attack. The station's defensive formation broke apart as ships rushed to meet the threat. While the aliens were distracted, the Resilience used its stealth systems to approach the station from the opposite direction. Hana had found a weakness In the station's design, where the prison modules were connected to the main structure with minimal shielding, the ship docked with the prison section without triggering any alarms. The resilience boarding systems cut through the hull like it was made of paper, and Dong-su led a rescue team into the station's corridors. The interior of the prison modules was a nightmare of cramped cells and terrible conditions. Human families were packed into spaces meant for cargo with barely enough room to lie down. The air was stale and filled with the smell of fear and desperation. When the prisoners saw Dong-su, many of them thought they were hallucinating. A human in combat armor carrying advanced weapons was not something they expected to see. "In this place of hopelessness, I am here to get you out," he said simply. "Follow me, stay quiet, and we will all go home." The rescue proceeded faster than expected because the Vorthons had never imagined that anyone would be able to penetrate their most secure facility. The prison guards were few and poorly armed compared to the weapons that Dong-su carried as the prisoners were evacuated to the resilience. The ship's sensors detected something disturbing. The battle outside was not going well for the human ships. Two of the vessels had been destroyed, and Unji's ship was badly damaged. "We need to leave now," Hana warned. The Vorthons are starting to realize that the attack was a diversion, but as Dong-su led the last group of prisoners toward the airlock, alarm sirens began blaring throughout the station. The main hangar doors slammed shut, trapping the resilience inside, while emergency lighting bathed everything in red. Trap, the AI said simply. They knew we were coming on the main screen. A familiar face appeared. Admiral Crix, the most feared commander in the Vorthon Empire. His reptilian features were twisted with cruel satisfaction as he looked at the human ship trapped in his station. "Clever little human," he said in perfect English. "You actually thought you could outsmart us? This ship of yours is quite impressive old human technology. I would guess we will enjoy taking it apart to see how it works." The hangar filled with Vorthon soldiers carrying heavy weapons, while defense turrets emerged from hidden positions in the walls. The resilience was surrounded and outnumbered with no apparent way to escape. "You cannot win," Admiral Crix continued. "Your pathetic rescue attempt has failed, and now you will join the other humans in our slave market." Dong-su looked at the prisoners crowding the ship's corridors. Families who had already lost everything and were now facing slavery or deaf children who would never see their new home, and parents who had failed to protect them. But then he remembered what Hana had told him about human nature and what made his people different from every other species in the galaxy. Humans did not give up when they were cornered. They fought harder. Admiral Crix had made one crucial mistake. In his perfect trap, he had underestimated what humans were capable of when they were fighting for their families. "You are welcome to try taking my ship," Dong-su said calmly. The admiral laughed. "You are surrounded and outnumbered. What can one human do against my entire fleet? Let me show you what humans do when you threaten our people," Dong-su replied. The resilience had been quietly analyzing the station's structure while the admiral was talking. Hana had found critical weaknesses in the support beams and power conduits that kept the massive facility together. The ship weapons did not target the soldiers or the defense turrets. Instead, they struck the hangar structural weak points with surgical precision. The massive chamber began to shake as metal beams twisted and electrical systems exploded. The Vorthon soldiers scattered in panic as sections of the ceiling began to fall. The defense turrets were crushed by falling debris, and the emergency lighting failed, leaving everything in darkness. Through the chaos, the resilience engines screamed to life, pushing the ship toward the collapsing hangar doors. The ancient human technology was more powerful than anything the Vorthons had ever seen, and the ship burst through the failing structure like it was made of paper outside the station. The battle was still raging, but something had changed. The human ships that had been losing were now fighting with desperate fury. The rescued prisoners were broadcasting messages on all frequencies, telling every human in the sector that the rescue was succeeding. "We are free," they shouted into space. "The humans are fighting back." The effect was immediate. Across the outer rim, human crews who had been hiding in fear emerged from their hiding places and joined the battle. Cargo haulers became warships, and merchants became warriors. The galaxy's forgotten people remembered their strength. Admiral Crix's fleet found itself facing not just one mysterious human ship, but dozens of vessels operated by people who refused to abandon their own. The Vorthons had superior technology, but they were fighting against something they could not understand the absolute refusal to give up that made humans dangerous throughout the galaxy. Dong-su walked through the dirty streets of Nexus Station with his head down and his pockets empty. The smell of alien food and burning fuel filled his nose as he passed by the busy market stalls, where creatures from dozens of worlds bought and sold their goods. Nobody looked at him twice because humans were common here and most aliens thought they were not worth noticing. His cargo ship had broken down 3-star systems away from this place, and he had spent his last credits getting a ride on a passing freighter. The repair costs for his old hauler were more money than he could make in 5 years of honest work, so he had to sell it for scrap just to pay his debts. Now he was stuck on this station with no ship, no money, and no way to get home. The alien traders treated humans like servants, or worse. They would hire human workers for the jobs that were too dangerous or too boring for other species to do. The pay was bad and the work was hard, but it was the only way most humans could survive in this part of the galaxy. Dong-su had seen proud human captains reduced to cleaning alien toilets just to buy food. He stopped at a small food stall run by an old Korean woman named Sunya, who had been living on the station. For 20 years, she served him a bowl of rice and vegetables that reminded him of home, even though the vegetables were purple and tasted like metal. Your ship broke down again, she asked him while wiping down the counter with a dirty rag. Sold it for scrap, he replied between bites of the strange food. Now, I'm looking for work. Sunya shook her head sadly. Same story every day. Human ships break down, human captains go broke, and human families get split up. The aliens have all the good jobs and all the money. Dong-su finished his meal and paid with the few credits he had left. Then he walked toward the edge of the station where the ship graveyard stretched out under the dim artificial sky. This was where broken ships came to die and where desperate people came to look for spare parts or maybe a miracle. The graveyard was huge, with thousands of wrecked vessels scattered across the rocky ground. Some were burned and twisted from battle damage, while others looked like they had just been abandoned when their owners could not afford to fix them. Alien scavengers moved between the wrecks like metal-eating insects, cutting away anything valuable. Dong-su kicked at a piece of twisted hull plating and watched it bounce across the ground. He had walked through ship graveyards before, but this one felt different. There were so many human ships here that it looked like the remains of a lost war. The aliens had better technology and better ships, while humans made do with whatever they could afford. That was when he saw it. Half buried under a pile of debris was a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. The hull was made of dark metal that seemed to change color when the light hit it from different angles. It was not burned or broken like the other ships. It just looked old and forgotten, like it had been waiting for someone to find it. The shape was strange too. Most human ships were built for cargo hauling or passenger transport with big boxy hulls and simple designs. This ship was sleek and curved, like it had been designed to cut through space itself. The metal surface was smooth except for lines of symbols that looked almost like writing. Dong-su walked closer to get a better look. The ship was bigger than it appeared from far away, maybe 3 times the size of his old cargo hauler, but somehow it seemed to fit perfectly in the small space where it sat. There were no scorch marks on the hull and no obvious damage that he could see. He found the salvage yard office in a small building made from shipping containers welded together. The owner was a fat green alien named Vex, who was eating something that looked like live worms from a metal bowl. His 4 arms moved independently as he stuffed food into his mouth while counting credits on a computer screen. "What do you want?" Human Vex asked without looking up from his meal. Dong-su pointed toward the dark ship. "I want to buy that one." Vex followed his gaze and then started laughing so hard that he spit worms across his desk. "That old thing, nobody wants that piece of junk. It has been sitting there for 70 years and nobody can get it to work. How much?" Dong-su asked. Vex wiped his mouth with the back of one hand. "Take it for free, just pay the paperwork fees, 500 credits for the transfer documents." Dong-su counted out his last credits and handed them over. Vex printed out the ownership papers and stamped them with an official seal while still chuckling about the stupid human who thought he could fix what real engineers could not. As Dong-su walked back toward his new ship, he noticed something strange. The other scavengers were staying away from it, like they were afraid to get too close. When he asked one of them why, the alien just shrugged and said the ship gave him bad feelings. The airlock door was hidden under some debris that Dong-su had to move by hand. As soon as he cleared the entrance, the heavy metal door slid open by itself. He stepped back in surprise. Because ship doors were not supposed to open without power inside. The ship was clean and undamaged. Emergency lighting flickered on as he walked through the corridors, casting everything in a soft blue glow. The air smelled fresh and clean instead of the stale recycled atmosphere he expected from a ship that had been abandoned for 70 years. The corridor walls were covered with the same strange symbols he had seen on the hull. They seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, and something about them felt familiar, even though he had never seen writing like this before. His feet made no sound on the metal floor as he walked deeper into the ship. He found the bridge at the front of the ship and stopped in amazement. The control panels were like nothing he had ever seen before. Instead of the simple switches and screens found on most human ships, these controls looked like they belonged in a dream. The surfaces were smooth and dark until he touched them, and then they lit up with soft colors and moving displays. The captain's chair was in the center of the bridge, and it looked like it had been made specifically for a human. The size was perfect, and the padding was still soft after all these years. When Dong-su sat down, the entire ship seemed to wake up around him. Screens came to life, showing star charts and technical diagrams. The control panels began glowing with warm light, and he could hear the quiet hum of machinery starting up somewhere deep in the ship. The symbols on the walls grew brighter, and he realized that some of them were moving like they were trying to tell him something. Then a voice spoke to him in perfect Korean, and Dong-su nearly jumped out of the chair. "Welcome aboard, Captain," the voice said. "I am Hana, your ship's artificial intelligence. I have been waiting a very long time for you." Dong-su looked around the bridge but could not see where the voice was coming from. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am the mind of this ship," Hana replied, and her voice was warm and friendly, like someone he had known all his life. "This vessel was built by humans for humans during the old wars. We have been sleeping in that junkyard for 73 years, waiting for someone worthy to find USA holographic display." Appeared in front of the captain's chair, showing the image of a young Korean woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She wore a simple blue uniform, and her hair was pulled back in a practical style. "You are Korean?" Dong-su asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am whatever you need me to be," Hana said, "but yes, I was programmed by your ancestors long ago. They built me to serve human captains and to remember what humans are capable of when they work together." Dong-su stared at the hologram in wonder. This was impossible. Ships like this did not exist. An artificial intelligence that advanced was something from old stories. His hands shook as he reached out to touch the control panel, and the ship responded to his touch like it was reading his mind. "Why me?" he asked. "I am nobody special, just a failed cargo hauler with no money and no future." "Because you are human," Hana said simply. "Because you saw value where others saw junk. Because you treat me like a person, not a tool. The ship's creators built me to recognize these qualities." In a potential captain, the main screen showed a view of the junkyard outside, where alien scavengers were still picking through the wreckage of dead ships. None of them had seen what Dong-su had seen, and none of them would have cared even if they had. "This ship has been waiting for you specifically," Hana continued. "You have the heart of an explorer and the soul of someone who refuses to give up. Those are the qualities that made humans great once upon a time." As she spoke, the ship's systems continued to come online, and Dong-su could feel the power flowing through the vessel like blood through veins. This was not just a ship, it was something far more important than he had ever imagined. The Resilience moved through the Crimson Nebula like a ghost ship, using its advanced stealth systems to avoid detection. The red gases swirled around the hull, creating strange patterns of light and shadow, while the ship's sensors penetrated deep into the clouded space, searching for signs of Vorthan activity. Dong-su had been hunting pirates for 3 days without finding any trace of the missing colony ship. The nebula was vast and filled with asteroid fields that could hide entire fleets. The Vorthans knew this territory better than anyone, and they had chosen their hiding places carefully. Hana worked constantly to analyze the sensor data, looking for energy signatures or debris that might indicate where the raiders had taken their prisoners. The AI could process information faster than any human mind, but even she was struggling to find patterns in the chaos of the nebulae. "Am detecting something unusual," the AI announced as new data appeared on the tactical display. 3 Ships moving in formation near the asteroid belt. They are not broadcasting identification signals, Dongsu studied the sensor readings and recognized the energy signatures of Vorthan vessels. The ships were sleek and dangerous looking with weapons that could punch through normal armor. The raiders were patrolling their territory looking for intruders or new victims. Are they alone? He asked. I am detecting no other vessels in the immediate area, Hana replied, but there could be more ships hiding in the asteroids. The three Vorthan ships were circling something that the sensors could not identify through the interference. The movement pattern suggested that they were guarding an important location, possibly where prisoners were being held. Take us closer, but keep us hidden, Dongsu ordered. The Resilience drifted through the gas clouds using minimal power to avoid detection. As they approached the asteroid belt, the ship's sensors finally penetrated the interference and revealed what the Vorthans were protecting. It was a human cargo ship, drifting powerless with its hull breached in several places. Escape pods floated nearby, but the sensors showed no life signs. The vessel had been attacked and its crew was either dead or captured. That is not the new Seoul, Hana observed after comparing the ship's configuration to their database. This is a different vessel, probably attacked more recently. Dongsu felt his anger building as he watched the Vorthan ships circle their victim like vultures. The raiders had no respect for human life, treating people like cargo to be bought and sold. They killed anyone who resisted and enslaved those who surrendered. Can we take all three ships? He asked. Yes, but we should be careful not to damage them too. Badly, Hana replied. We need prisoners who can tell us where the main base is located. The Resilience dropped its stealth systems and accelerated toward the Vorthan patrol. The alien ships detected the approaching vessel and immediately moved to intercept. Assuming that they were dealing with another helpless human freighter, the lead Vorthan captain opened a communication channel and his reptilian face appeared on the main screen. His eyes were cold and his voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never faced real opposition. Human vessel, you are trespassing in Vorthan space, he announced. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. Dongsu smiled grimly as he prepared the ship's weapon systems. I have a better idea, he replied. You surrender and I will let you live. The Vorthan captain laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. No human has ever defeated us in battle. Your primitive ships are no match for our technology. The alien was still laughing when the Resilience fired its first shot. The energy beam struck the lead ship with surgical precision, disabling its weapons, but leaving the hull intact. The Vorthan vessel spun out of control as its captain tried to understand what had happened. The other two ships opened fire with everything they had, but their weapons could not penetrate the Resilience shields. The ancient human technology was far superior to anything the pirates had encountered. Their energy beams passed harmlessly around the human ship like water around a stone. Dongsu targeted the second ship engines, crippling it with a single shot. The third vessel tried to flee, but the Resilience was faster and more maneuverable. The alien ship was disabled before it could escape into the asteroid field. Impossible. The lead captain gasped as his ship drifted helplessly. Human technology is primitive. How can you have weapons like this? Because we built them when your ancestors were still living in caves, Dongsu replied. The Vorthan ships were now powerless, and their crews were trapped inside their own vessels. Hana used the Resilience tractor beam to pull the disabled ships away from the asteroids while Dongsu prepared boarding parties to search them. The alien crew surrendered without fighting when they realized that their weapons were useless against the human boarding suits. The Resilience had equipment that could protect its crew from any known weapon while allowing them to move freely through hostile environments. Dongsu interrogated the captured Vorthan captains using truth serum that the ship's medical bay had synthesized. The aliens were forced to reveal the location of their main base and the fate of the missing human colonists. The new soul was taken to our primary facility in the heart of the nebula. The lead captain admitted the survivors are being processed for sale to the slave markets. How many survivors? Dongsu demanded. 237. The alien replied. The others died during the capture or were killed for resisting. Dongsu felt sick knowing that more than 60 innocent people had died because the galaxy did not care enough to protect them. The families back on Kepler station would never see their loved ones again, and the children who had been Looking forward to a new life. We're now orphans. Where exactly is this base? He asked. The captain provided coordinates deep in the nebula where the Vorthans had built a hidden station from the wreckage of captured ships. The facility was heavily defended. With automated weapons and a fleet of raider vessels, you will never reach it alive, the alien warned. Our base has sensors that can detect any approaching ship and enough firepower to destroy a battlecruiser. The Resilience began moving toward the coordinates while Dongsu studied the intelligence they had gathered. The Vorthan base was indeed well protected, but the ancient human ship had capabilities that the pirates could not imagine. The ship's communication systems detected other vessels in the area, and Hannah identified them as human ships running on outdated engines. They were following the Resilience at a distance, trying to stay hidden but doing a poor job of it. 3 vessels, all human registry, the AI reported. They appear to be cargo haulers that have been modified with weapons. Dongsu opened a communication channel to the lead ship. A weathered-looking Korean woman appeared on the screen. Her face was scarred from years of hard living, and her eyes held the determination of someone who had nothing left to lose. My name is Yunji, she said. We saw what you did to those Vorthan ships. Word is spreading through the human settlements that someone is finally fighting back. This is dangerous work, Dongsu warned her, and your ships are not designed for combat. We know the risks, she replied, but we are tired of running and hiding. Every day more humans disappear and nobody does anything to stop it. If you are going to hit the Vorthans, we want to help. The other ships were commanded by humans who had lost family members to the raiders. They carried improvised weapons and armor that would not protect them against serious opposition, but they were determined to fight regardless of the odds. We may not have fancy ships like yours, one of the captains said, but we have something the Vorthans do not understand. We refuse to give up. Dongsu looked at the faces of the human captains and saw the same spirit that had once made his people great. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they would not abandon their own people to slavery and death. All right, he said, you can come with us, but you follow my orders and you do exactly what I tell you. Small human fleet moved deeper into the nebula toward the Vorthan base where the survivors of the New Soul were waiting for rescue. The pirates had grown comfortable in their hidden fortress, but they were about to learn that humans could be just as dangerous as any alien. When they were fighting for their families, the hunt was about to become a battle, and Dongsu intended to show the galaxy what happened when humans decided to stop being victims. The space around the Vorthan station had become a battlefield where human determination met alien arrogance. The Resilience burst from the collapsing hangar with its cargo of rescued prisoners, while dozens of human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the nebula to join the fight. Admiral Crix watched in disbelief as his carefully planned trap turned into chaos. His station was falling apart and his fleet was being overwhelmed by ships that should have been easy targets. The humans were fighting with a fury that his experienced warriors had never encountered. Impossible, he roared over the communication channels. Human ships cannot generate that kind of power. This is not just any ship, Dongsu broadcast on all frequencies. This is human engineering, human determination, human refusal to kneel before anyone. The rescued prisoners aboard the Resilience were sending messages to every human settlement in the sector. Their voices carried across space, telling the story of their rescue and calling for others to join the fight. My name is Jinwoo, one young man said into the communicator. I was a prisoner on that station for 2 months, but humans came for me. A human captain and his crew risked everything to save people. They had never met. The messages spread like wildfire through the human networks that connected scattered settlements across the galaxy. People who had given up hope began to believe that things could change. Workers who had accepted their fate as servants started to remember what their ancestors had accomplished on the bridge of the Resilience. Dongsu watched as more human ships arrived to join the battle. Old cargo haulers and passenger transports that had been converted into makeshift warships. Their weapons were primitive and their armor was improvised, but they fought with the courage of people who had nothing left to lose. The Vorthan fleet tried to maintain their formation, but they were being attacked from all directions by enemies who refused to follow conventional tactics. Human ships rammed alien vessels when their weapons failed, and captains sacrificed themselves to protect others. We Need to retreat. Admiral Crick's subordinate reported our losses are becoming unacceptable. The Admiral stared at the tactical display showing human ships throughout the nebula. There were dozens of them now and more arriving every hour. The rescue of the new Sol passengers had become something much larger. Fall back to the homeworld. He ordered all ships retreat immediately, but the human fleet was not finished with the Vorthans. The Resilients had uploaded the station's database to every ship in the battle, revealing the locations of slave markets and hidden bases throughout the sector. The pirate secrets were exposed and their operations crippled as the alien ships fled. Dongsu stood on his bridge, surrounded by the people he had rescued. Families were reuniting and children were crying with joy while hardened spacers wiped tears from their eyes. What happens now? Asked Kenya, the elderly woman whose grandson had been among the prisoners. Now we rebuild, Dongsu replied. We remember what humans can do when we work together. The galaxy tried to break us and make the U.S. forget our strength, but we are still here and we are still fighting. The battle had lasted 6 hours, and when it ended, the human fleet controlled the entire nebula. The Vorthan station was destroyed and their slaves were free, but more importantly, the rescue had awakened something that had been sleeping in the human spirit for generations. Word of the victory spread across the galaxy through trade routes and communication networks. Human settlements that had been isolated for decades began to contact each other. Stories of the battle were told in cantinas and work camps where humans labored under alien supervision. The Galactic Council tried to dismiss the incident as a minor skirmish between pirates and smugglers, but they could not ignore the growing unrest in human communities. The rescue had shown that humans were not as helpless as their